love to talk about the debuts because I love to hear the emotion going on behind people because it's such a tough aspect. I think especially in rugby as a sport because like human beings are emotional creatures as it is, and it's like I think people don't celebrate their wins enough. But I really like to hear that people are trying to acknowledge it. But then when you're trying to get ready for a rugby game, especially because you were 19 when you made your debut, I believe, just based on when it would have been.
I think I was like maybe just turned 21.
I thought it was 20. No.
Well, depends what one. Like, I mean, I would have made my 20s debut at like 19. I made my Scotland Sevens debut at 18, and then my national team would have been 20 or 21.
Oh, sorry, I meant Glasgow debut. Sorry.
Oh, Glasgow debut.
Sorry, Glasgow. Yeah.
Then so yeah.
Yeah. Well, people are going to think I'm terrible at my research if I leave. This gets 2 years off in his debut. You can't even tell, like, can't do basic maths.
There's so many different things you could refer to, different teams, sevens, 15s. Yeah, Glasgow was good. Like, I mean, I finished high school, got an academy contract at Glasgow. So I got immersed right into the professional rugby environment and learnt what it was like. I remember being 18 and sent off to the Marine camp up in, I think it was Arbroath or something like that, with the Warriors, and going through that whole experience, 3 days of hell, not getting any sleep, getting ran into the ground, like just absolute torture for 3 days. And I think, you know, like I managed to come through it, like, and I think that probably shocked as a young guy. It probably shocked a lot of people, and I think that was maybe one of the catalysts for like me being able to get through that, and then got an opportunity sort of 2 or 3 months after that. So yeah, I remember that, and that was an amazing experience. You know, you're around guys that you've looked up to your whole life, and you see how they go about things. So yeah, it was cool to play for Glasgow, and I remember getting my debut, and then I didn't play again for probably like, I think I was on the bench a week or two later, but didn't get on, and then didn't play for 4 or 5 months, but was lucky enough to get away on the sevens trips and do some of the circuit stuff. So went into sevens for a bit, and then I came back, and it was probably a year after that until I played for Glasgow again. So it wasn't as if I was straight in there and playing. It was just a dip your toe in, head off somewhere else, get some experience, and then I came back.
How was the sevens life though? Because that must have been pretty sweet. Like that's the dream everybody says. You're getting flown around the world and you get to see all these cool. Like we just spoke about LA, you get to see all these cool places. On the sevens team, and like you're with the boys again, effectively a smaller squad, but you're with the boys.
Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. What an experience! Like the first trip, we went to Australia, then Dubai, then South Africa. So it was a 3.5-week trip. What an experience! Get to travel the world as an 18-year-old, see all these different places, major cities. Some of these places I've not been back to since then, and like, yeah, what a time! Like you're in a much smaller squad in a sevens team, so you kind of spend more time with those guys. So that was quite interesting, learning about that dynamic, getting to know people a little bit more rather than being on a big squad and, you know, having your like guys but not knowing others. What an experience. But yeah, I'm not a sevens athlete, so I think I did 3 or 4 weeks pre-season with the sevens team before we went to the first tournament, so I was fit and I was in shape. And then after that first 3 tournaments, came back to Scotland, or came back to Glasgow, and I was training, playing for Stirling County. So I had 3 or 4 weeks with them, and then the next sevens tournament was maybe a week after that. So then did a week's training, and that was kind of how the season ran. But because I'm not a natural sevens athlete, my fitness levels just declined slowly as the season went on. And by the time we got to the end of the season, I'm out in the sevens field, but I'm blowing heavily because I'm coming back and playing 15s, and I'm just not conditioned for the game. And that was probably just the way the program was back then, like the sports science around how to condition players, the professionalism of the program at that point just wasn't there. But yeah, it probably taught me that if I wanted to play sevens, then I really had to be staying away from 15s. Like it was one or the other. You know, for me, if I was playing sevens, I'd be playing at about 98 kilos, and if I was playing 15s, I'd be playing at 108, and I couldn't do either or.
That's a lot of extra timber to carry on joints as well.
Yeah, no, it was. So that was the big learning out of that. But it was great to just get that experience, and I guess like play in front of crowds and travel about and learn a little bit about different cultures in the world. So a great learning opportunity.
I always want to know what tour life's like with the sevens team, because like you said, you're actually, because like, well, I'm from the borders in Scotland where sevens is basically how we spend our summers, and like it's a party every weekend. So how is it to keep that elite brain mentality of like we're the best at this in a way because we're the ones going on the main sevens tour, but you're having all this party atmosphere around you? Like, do you guys get to enjoy that atmosphere as the team, or is it we're working here?
Yeah, normally at the end of a tournament, so you have a 3-week tournament or 2-week. The first week you would normally try and keep it under wraps, like, you know, guys get sleeping after a long weekend of rugby, and then the following weekend you would go out. But I was just like, I was there to put my head down and just, you know, follow the guidance for the most part of the coaches and the older senior players. So I wasn't looking to break any rules and cause any issues partying on a Tuesday night. I mean, it would probably be harder towards the end of your career once your eyes are a little bit more open to, you know, what it's like when you're on tour, or, you know, as you get a little bit older. But yeah, I think it's such an intense sport, and it's a roller coaster being involved in a sevens competition or competitions over 2 or 3 weeks. So genuinely, like, you probably just can't really afford to be out like 3-4 times throughout that period. It would be too difficult, and I could see how it would definitely affect your performance.
Yeah,
That's me saying that now as a nearly 30-year-old. If you asked me that when I was 21, I'd have given you a different answer.
yes, I'd be in every bar I could be.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be you've got stronger willpower than me, because if somebody sent me to the Hong Kong sevens, like the last thing I'd be worried about is how many tries I'm going to score.
How many pints are you going to think?
It would look like the most budget tenants rugby you've ever seen, because I'd literally probably somehow manage to fall over a try line and then just go straight to the person holding the beer on the side of the pitch.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been done.
I think somebody did that at Melrose Sevens actually, and they had to cut the cameras because it was like BBC Two telly at like 3:30 in the afternoon. And you watched, I think it was one of the Dundee boys, you watched him walk right over to his mate, and the camera saw him reach for a pint and it just cut. Like, it just went straight back to the studio.
That's class.
That's so good. Like, so how did that feel then? Because I imagine that's quite a difficult situation as a pro and as a kid. If you make your debut at 19 for Glasgow, but then, like you say, you're then back out the team effectively. Like you said, you're on the bench, but you're still not getting put on. How does that play with the emotions? Because obviously you have that high of making your debut, and you think, this is it. Like hard work begins now. I'm in the team. I've got to keep it. But then when you don't get back in the team, how does that affect somebody's emotions as a person?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I would say at that point, you're not desperate to play, because the way you look at it is, I've got all this time ahead of me. You know, like, I've got another 10 years doing this. That I don't need to be like beating myself up that much if I'm not playing. And, you know, like, as a player, you've got so much to develop. Like, you can be in the gym, so you're just thinking about everything that you can do to get yourself in the best position that you can to play. But at the same time, you can just change your focus to something else as a young professional. Like, you can go and hit the gym, you can go and, you know, do a sevens program, go and play in some competitions. So, like, it wasn't too bad. Like, you never expect to play regularly as a 19-year-old. Like, for me, it was just about being around that team and learning and trying to soak it all up and, you know, make friends and stuff like that. So I wasn't too stressed or anything, or too emotionally in turmoil at that point in my career when it comes to playing. Like, I had a lot of time ahead.
I love that. It sounds like you actually have quite a mature head on your shoulders as well. It's like you see, you're like, I'm aware there's more to life than this at the moment. Like, although this, like, same way most people treat a 9-to-5 job, you're like, this is here and it's good that I've worked this hard to get it, but I'm aware that, like, it's not over in a day type thing.
Yeah. No, I've always, like, don't know, like, probably until I was about 23 or 4, like, my identity probably was like, I'm a rugby player. Like, but then when I got to 23, 24, like, things started to change. Like, you know, you kind of maybe go through some things that are a bit harder. Like, you get humbled 3,000 times because of you know, you make mistakes, you know, you mess up, and you start to question things a little bit more. And it's at that point where you kind of establish within yourself that your reality is not a rugby player. You know, you're a person, or, you know, first and foremost, that's what you are. You're not a rugby player. You can step out of that, you can do other things, you can explore other avenues. And I felt quite fortunate that I was able to unravel that at a reasonably early age, And I think that's now also helped with the transition out of playing, because like a lot of people don't, I think, go through that stage until a little bit later. Like I can only speak from my experience, but I know it can be a challenging time when people finish up. But for me, I think it was a little bit easier, because I had went through that at a younger age, that transition of waking up from the fact that, you know, if I don't have rugby, I'll be all right. Like I'll find a way of making it work. And I think obviously having good people around you, a good family, and people that are giving good advice are important to that. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely a big part of my career, was seeing that.
I love that. I especially love what you said there. You like, I'm gonna be all right here, and I think it's a really important message that other people take. I like to think that like friends of yours and people from the sport community come in, and I think hearing people like yourself go through it, 'cause obviously we'll touch on the injury a bit later that ultimately led to you sort of shifting away from the field in a playing stance. But yeah, I love it when I hear people like that who realize they are who they are as the person, and they don't let their sport define them. Hey, thank you for listening to this Clips episode on YouTube. And then if you want to hear the whole podcast, you can find them on Apple or Spotify, as well as the full video version on this YouTube channel, alongside all the other great content we produce on a weekly basis. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you again on another Clips episode or in the full episode podcast. Tweet us, tag us, let us know what you thought. All the links are down in the description. It means the world that you guys come and support us, so thank you very much.